All right, customizing CRM for your business. So again, my name is Ricky. We're going to go over a lot of the same stuff that Samir talked about. So if you had questions about how he talked about roles and profiles and adding a field and layouts, I'm going to go over that again and show you how to actually do it. So, of course, you can customize a software, but you can't just dive into it and start changing fields and layouts and things like that. You really have to plan what you're doing first. Sales managers, some of you are VP sales, some are company owners. We have all sorts of people using the CRM that are going to be the main administrator. So this is changes on that administrator level that affects all of the users. So think about what business do you have first, right? Because the CRM is applicable to any business size, any business industry. Are you in real estate? Are you in retail? Are you in software, hardware? So first think about that. Then who are you selling to? Customers, other businesses, both? Are there vendors involved? Are there resellers involved? What do I need to gather? Well, we've got the basic fields down. First name, last name, company, email, phone number. What else do you need? Let's say you're in real estate. You might need to know the address of the property, the square footage, bedrooms, bathrooms, location, the apartment lead, their phone number, their address. You might need all that information. If you're in software like us, we need to know when you started your trial, what form you used to sign up, how many of those apps you signed up for, have you purchased yet, how much did you pay? So these are all different fields that you would need to add. And then how do you want it to look? Do you want a 1-column or 2-column layout? Do you want it to say home, leads, contacts, accounts, or do you want it to say emails, home, accounts, contacts, potentials? When you click on a lead, do you want it to show first name and last name on the left or on the right? What fields are mandatory? And then who can see all this information? Right, Samir mentioned you can split your data into views. So you can segment those leads, segment those accounts, segment those contacts. But then you can go even further. Can you only see your own leads? Can you see your team's leads? Can you see the whole company's accounts? So think about all this information first and answer all these questions. Then dive into what you can customize. All right, so here's the basics. You can change the fields around. You can assign a profile. What else can you do? Once you become more advanced, you talk about potential stages, workflow rules, dashboards, and then you can pretty much tear apart the entire CRM and put it back together, right? So that's basically the point of this slide, is just saying that everything you see in the CRM can be changed, all right? It's not out of the box for anybody, and if you're using it out of the box, I highly recommend going to a one-on-one session and we'll teach you some best practices, all right? We've designed it so you have a template to start with, but you should end up customizing all of this information so that you can run a more efficient business. This will help minimize the work their salesperson has to do. Who here hates CRM, right? Every salesperson at some point in your life when you've worked in sales, what is the one thing you hate? You want to write everything down on a Post-it note and kind of stick it all over your monitor, which I've seen in a lot of companies. They hate using the CRM, right? Why? Because it's not customized, it's not efficient, the workflows are not manageable. It's annoying, right? So you start at step one, you customize, and then you're going to, as you learn in Zoholics, you're going to figure out how to maintain your data, create efficient reports, and then build workflow rules. So my sales team, we have 40, 50 workflow rules that we rely on because I need to have them spend more time with the customer and less time clicking everything in the CRM. Every end of quarter, we have a meeting, and I just tell them what is annoying you about the CRM, and I try to figure out a way to make it more efficient. We remove fields we're not using anymore. All right, so keep that all in mind. It's a work in progress. If you're an admin, you have another job in your company. Most of us can't ask for a raise because we have 2 titles in the company, but you do have another title. And you need to make sure you engage the sales team or the sales manager so you can continue customizing it. This is not a one-time thing. So let's start with the very, very basics. Modules. As Samir mentioned, a module is a tab in the CRM. If you're logged into an account right now, you'll see home, leads, accounts, contacts, potentials, reports, dashboards, cases, solutions, etc. So those are your modules. Figure out, before you do anything, what you want, what you don't want, and if you do want something, if you want to change the name, figure out what that name needs to be. Then dive into the CRM. So plan it all out. All right, then you have fields. That's a point of data entry inside the module, like first name and last name. What else do you need? Plan those fields out. If you have a spreadsheet, those fields are on your spreadsheet, right? It's the same information you want in the CRM, so create those fields first before you import. Figure out what type of field it is. We have text fields, number fields, drop downs, currencies, and then more advanced fields like auto number and lookup and formula. How is everything laid out? You can sectionalize your fields. It's easier to see. Rather than seeing 100 fields in a row, make them into sections. It's easier to train people that way as well. And then think about how you want to segment your data. So I'm going to use myself as an example. When I log in, I'm the sales manager. I technically have no leads. I'm not doing the calls. So I don't want to see my open leads. That doesn't make any sense in perspective to my position. So I want to see Haley's leads, Tanner's leads, Matt's leads, Joel's leads, etc. And then I have a view for each of them. Then I want to see leads, how our CRM is growing. So I want to see leads coming from Texas, leads coming from California, leads coming from Florida. That's another segment. Maybe I want to see leads from Joel that are in Florida, that he's qualified, that are for CRM, right? So you can build multiple layers of criteria on these views and then save them. Then figure out if my sales team logs in, can they see just their own records or can they see everybody's? And that builds on your permissions. So let's talk about modules. First thing, rename. I'll give you some examples. Leads can be called prospects. Contacts can be called clients. Accounts can be called companies or organizations. Some of you are B2B and B2C and don't even use accounts. You can remove it. You can organize the tabs. Let's say you are going to use 20 tabs in the CRM. You've got custom modules and creator integration, all these things like that. Organize it all. So you have your sales tab segment, then your marketing tab segment, then your analytics tab segment. You don't have to look at all of them all at the same time. It just makes it overcomplicated, right? Simplify it. Rearrange them. I like seeing emails tab on the very, very left. That's the most important tab for me, so I like seeing it first. I moved it. So figure out the order. And then on the Enterprise Edition, if your business needs are outside of what we offer, you can create your own. And we'll talk about that in advanced customization. So I'm just going to zoom in here. So here are our modules. So how do you change the name of this module? You're going to click on Setup. So we're going to work inside this customization section mainly. So I click on Modules. All right, so I'm going to use the example I just gave. Let's say I want to change contacts into clients. I'm going to click on Edit. Right, so Setup, Customization, Modules, and then Edit. So it's asking for a singular and a plural. Why does it do that? Well, sometimes it says things like add contact or import my contacts. So it needs to know the singular and the plural. So put both. Down here is the permissions. There's two ways to do this. You can do the permissions from the modules tab, or you can do it from the permissions tab, which we'll talk about. So once I do that, it's an immediate change, right? So clients has been changed from contacts. And then I click on manage and figure out which ones I want to keep or which ones I want to remove. Right? This is every single module in the CRM, a couple of custom ones. This is what it looks like, right? It's a lot of stuff. So manage. If you're new to CRM, I would advise removing most of these modules for now. While I look at something, if you don't really know what it does, you know, as you grow, your business grows, you keep learning the CRM, then add them back. Don't overwhelm yourself with trying to learn everything at once. Just focus on leads, contacts, accounts, potentials, reports. And for example, let me remove, you see forecast up here? I'm going to remove it. So I click on it, move it to the left, hit save, and it's gone. Right? What was the other thing I could do on here? I can rearrange them. I want to move accounts before clients, and I hit save, and it's done. All right, so it's pretty simple to do. And then you can also create your own module from scratch. Right? You start with naming it, then you add fields, you do the layout all the way through to the reports, workflows, etc. All right, so that's modules. Now, there's another section here called tab groups. This is what I was saying when you could segment the modules. So over here, I have a list of every single module in the CRM. Maybe the administrator wants to see that, but what you can do for everyone else is create different segments. So rather than choosing individual modules to share to individual people, you segment them. So this is the sales list. Notice there's nothing else in here now. And I have one for management. Just the reports, dashboards, and forecasts. So what they need to see. So how do you do this? You create a tab group. I'm just going to edit this one. The same kind of layout. You choose the modules you want. You place them on the right, choose the order, and you hit save. You can figure out who can see each segment. The administrator will be able to see every single segmentation. Otherwise, you can limit based on that segment of modules rather than doing it one at a time. It's just quicker. All right? So think about if you're going to use, I say more than 8 modules, I would segment them. It just makes it easier to see. All right, so the module is built. What's next? The field. So when I say field, what does someone think of? They think of this, right? As a literal meaning. But this can be applied to the software, right? It's just general run-of-the-mill field, right? Last name, first name, company, email, phone. Every single form you've probably ever filled out has this stuff on there, right? A variation of some sort. Wouldn't it be nice if you could change it and make it exactly the way your business operates, add your own fields, segment those fields, make certain fields mandatory, and make it look something like this, right? This is what you're trying to do when you click on leads, accounts, contacts, potentials, etc. You want to look at something nice, something that makes sense to you, not just a bunch of Skype IDs and fax numbers and country. If you're in US, why would you need a country field, right? So think of that stuff and go to the field section. So, right back where we were already, right next to it is fields. So, you choose the module first, and then right below that is a chart. This chart tells you all of the existing fields, the field type, and if it's a custom field or not. Every custom field has a check mark next to it. It also has a delete button. So I can delete all of my custom fields whenever I want. If I do so, it will give me a warning. If this field is attached to a workflow, as you become more advanced, it will also give you a warning for that, so you know that your workflow or your view or something will get deactivated because you're removing a field related to that. All right, so the standard fields in the CRM are the ones without a delete button, basically. So can you remove them? Yes, you can. In the layout section, you can drag and remove them, as Samir showed you, and I will go over that again. So that's why the delete button's not there, but you can definitely hide them. You can hide your custom fields too. Why would you hide? Why would you delete? If you hide a field, the data in the field does not get deleted. It just simply is, no one can see it. So if you want to test out if you're not going to use a field or not, hide it first, see if anyone complains. If not, then go ahead and remove it. All right, so all of the drop-downs in the CRM can be customized. So lead source, lead status, industry, for example, they can all be customized. You don't have to delete them or do anything like that. You can just simply click edit. So any drop-down in the CRM, every single drop-down in the CRM can be edited. All you have to do is click on it and put it to whatever you want it to be. All right? I can add multiple values at once. Right? I can even drag and drop this and move this around too. All right, it's pretty simple to do. Then you hit save. So let me show you here under leads. Right now, this is what the lead section looks like. I have not customized it. It's just basically what it is out of the box. This section I have customized. Anyone take a guess what kind of business this is? Catering, correct. The first thing I think about when I wake up in the morning is not my email. It's food. I don't pick up my phone and stare at it like this every single morning. I know everyone does that. I roll out of bed and start making food. So I'm going to use the example of a catering business, right? Let's call it Delicious Delivered. What's important to Delicious Delivered? Well, we need to know what days people like to get their food delivered. Maybe just Tuesday and Thursday. Maybe those are the meeting days and the manager orders food. What cuisine? I tried to add every single cuisine on here. Everything but Indian. Then portion size. Small, medium, large. These are just simple fields, of course. You want to make it more detailed. Portion number. Guess what else I did? They're red. I made them mandatory. So someone on the phone has to gather this information. They can't save it otherwise. So think of it in that aspect. From a catering business, this is what's important, so I've made them mandatory. I've even made a section for it, so it just looks easier to find, right? So that's the idea here. So let's go under fields. We're back to where we were. And I'm going to click on New Custom Field. So let's actually review the field types this time. So your basic field is a text box. Give you a hint here, the maximum length is 255 characters. What if your needs are outside of that? Then you can go to text area. There's only two options, 2,000 and then 32,000. 32,000 is also the limit on how large a note can be in the CRM. Just for your information, that's, if anyone asks, that's how big a note is. All right, so next. I always get that question, so it's been answered. All right, so number fields. Why would you use a number field? Think of the CRM as it's validating your data. If you put everything as a text field, it doesn't know if it's a number. So if you try to do a plus or minus on the formula, it cannot plus or minus a text field. So it validates it as a number, so make it a number field. Integer, percent, decimal, currency. If you use the mail add-on or the Outlook plugin, how does it know who to link the email to? With an email field. We already have an email field in the CRM, but what if there's a work email and a home email, third email, and I don't know, everyone has a lot of email addresses. So you can make your own email address field, and so it can pre-populate that email to the correct lead or contact. Also, when you're sending an email from the CRM, it'll let you choose from all of the email fields. It also validates the phone number. This does auto-format for US phone numbers. No people ask about international numbers. It's being worked on, but right now it does validate for the US phone numbers. So if you type a US phone number in without any parentheses, dashes, dots, it just turns it into the traditional format of 3-digit area code with parentheses and then a dash for 3 digits and 4 digits. Pick list is my favorite field. Why is that? Because it standardizes the information. If I made a pick list, then no one would be able to choose something outside of these three options. Someone can accidentally make a typo and put a lowercase d in there and mess up my reports, or even choose a lowercase c or type it twice by accident, right? So that's why pick lists are the preferred method. So if you can figure out a way to make a drop down from a text field, it's highly, highly recommended. It just keeps your reports clean because reports are based off criteria as our workflows. So if it equals that exact value, then it can run. So if someone makes a typo, which is just a, it's a human error, it happens, it can mess up your entire automation. So use a lot of drop downs. Then there's URL fields, checkboxes, and then there's some more complex fields we'll talk about on day 2, the auto number field. Does anyone auto number their accounts? Account 2, account 5, account 6. So this is what it can do. You create a new account, it sets a number for it. As you create more accounts, it gives them a number. You don't have to type it in. A lookup field links 2 sections together. This is very important when you create a custom field because you need it to link to something else, and that's what that does. And then formula fields can be built to calculate all sorts of types of functions. All right? We're not going to jump into that first. We'll talk about the pick list. All right. So I can name, and then I can choose values, right? Small, medium, large. We even have extra large. All right. So in a pick list, I can make something default every single time. So in our example here, we have something called lead status. It defaults to not contacted. Every time a lead is created, the sales team has to then update the status to something else. That way there's not a blank value in there. Then if you notice, there's an also create for option. So we'll talk about this in sales tracking and forecasting after lunch, but a lead converts into a contact, right? And then if there's a company name associated to lead, you get an account. If there's a sale associated to both of those, you get a potential. So if my field here, portion size, gets converted when the lead is, where's it going to go? Well, right now it's going to go into oblivion, right? Because I haven't created a second field for it to match. So we've made it easy. You can just simply click that button and it duplicates it for you. Who here has not done this and has already tried to make fields? All right, so this is what you can do. Under leads, there's a map fields option. You can manually fix the way the fields are mapped. So this is what happens during a conversion. If anyone's wondering where the fields all go, the country field in lead becomes billing country and account and mailing country under contact, which I've renamed to client. So this is where all of the fields are going. You can change it all up. As long as the field name, the field type matches, then it will let you choose it. So for a phone, it's only going to allow you to choose from other phone number fields. So if you have customized a field and not added duplicates, go ahead and make the duplicates in the corresponding sections and then come back here and map it. All right, so that will fix that for you. or you can always delete the field and start from scratch. That's up to you, but that's how you know how things convert. All right, so let's go back here. I'm just going to call this portion size. I'm going to make it a pick list, small, medium, large, and we'll duplicate it. All right, so here's my field. So it's pretty simple. It shows small, medium, and large. I just choose the option, and I can save it. So it defaults to the bottom of the first section. That's where your field goes. But now I need to move it around. So that's where layouts comes in. So we're in the same section. I just went over to layouts. So you can do a lot of stuff in the layout section. First and foremost is rearranging the fields on the page. Then you mark certain fields mandatory. A quick tip here, if you are importing leads or importing contacts and you chose all of these fields to be mandatory and your spreadsheet's missing half this information, your import is going to fail. All right, so don't do that first. Import it first if you're missing a lot of information. So now mark as mandatory by simply checking the box, create sections, and don't forget to save because it does not auto-save. So Samir already showed this, but if I don't want Skype ID, I'll move it over here. It's a Zoho default field. If I want to make something mandatory, I mark it as mandatory. It turns red. I cannot remove owner. It won't let me. However, I can move it around. And then I can make sections. Create a section. I can make it 1 column or 2 column. So if you want all your fields one on top of each other all the way down, you can do everything on 1 column. All right, some people like that better. On clients, I've gone ahead and added a section, made it mandatory, and I can even drag and drop the sections around. All right, and I just have to make sure I hit save at the very bottom, and that's layouts. All right, so all this is done, so now it's about how we view our data, right? So views. Standard views, everyone has them in the CRM, my open leads, my contacts, all potentials, my tasks, my calls, my events, all activities. So everyone has these. They might be applicable to your business, they might not. So you create custom views. And I gave you a few examples about segmenting by ownership, segmenting by state, by product type, by lead status, by lead source, or mixing and matching them together. What happens when you make a lot of views? Well, that drop down gets really, really, really long. If you see our company account, there's probably 1,000 views in there. So what do? You favorite your views so they appear right at the top. Or you can search the views. So where are the views? Under leads, here on the top left. If I go to accounts or clients, you also have the territory segmentation. You might not see that in your system unless you've set up territories on the Enterprise Edition. So you choose any of the existing views. One of the views I really like is converted leads. So this tells you what was converted each day. Or today's leads, if you do an import, you can find them straight away on today's leads. I made one here called Custom View, really original. So this tells me here exactly what's going on in California and Texas. How do I know that? Well, watch this menu. It just pops up out of nowhere. So that's where it is. I'm going to click Edit and show you what I did. I named the view. Can mark it as a favorite. I chose the columns. All of the existing views, even my open leads, you can change the columns. Right now you see like first, last name, email, and company, I believe. You can change that around, switch the order, remove the ones you don't want to look at. Then you can share the view only to yourself, to your whole company, to certain users, and then you add the criteria. It's kind of like building a program without having any knowledge of code, right? Because all you're doing is adding ands and or statements. So you can mix and match fields together. It does know if it's a number field. It won't say contains this particular number because that wouldn't make sense. And if it's a date field, it will know that that it's going to include like a range of dates, like after June 1st or between July 1st and July 31st. So things like that, it will intelligently know that this is a date field, right? So again, it's very important to make sure you choose the right field types. All right, I'm not going to save any of that. Go ahead and cancel. What else can you do on the view? So Mandy's going to go over some of this stuff. You can select all and apply an action. But what I wanted to cover in this scenario was that you can search within the view itself. So I can go ahead and search, again, inside the view, not searching the whole CRM. And I can just say client name, contains, is, doesn't, starts with, etc. contains Sam, it's going to bring up Samir, right? I just hit enter. So you have that on every view. So your views could have thousands of leads in them regardless. You can search within the view itself. Favorite view, how do you do that? You can just put a star next to it. All right, so any of these views, I want to favorite. And now it's going to show at the top. There it is. And then if I want to search a view, just start typing it in and it searches it. All right, and that's views. Last section is permissions. Don't read the complicated definition in the user guide. This is all you need to know. What you can do, what you can see. That's it. That's profiles and roles. All right, so you're a user. You get added to the CRM. Can you do the same thing as your boss or the administrator or the person next to you? Right? You're going to maybe peep over to their screen and like, oh, hey, you can see reports. I can't. Well, that's because of profiles and roles. Profiles, what you can do. Every single button in the CRM has an off switch. Right? That's what you put into the profile. Can they import? Can they update? Can they edit? Can they delete? In what modules? Can they share? Can they manage a workflow? Can they change someone else's permissions? So let's pick an example. So I allowed the person to edit, create, and delete inside the leads module. Can they see all of those leads though? And that's the role. So it's a combination of both when you add a user. Can I see only my leads when I log in? Some sales organizations are that way where you only see your own information. Some share everything all the way across the board. So you have to decide how that's going to work, because if you allow the same person only to see their own leads and then they run a report, the report is only going to show their own leads, right? So think about how it applies to other sections. All right, so when you invite a user in the users and permissions section, you're going to click this button and it's going to give them a profile and a role. It's asking for it up front. If you don't see profiles and roles at all, that means you have one user. That's why you can't change it. So add a second user and this section will pop up. So the profile is what you can do. The administrator can do everything regardless of their role. It doesn't matter. The standard profile is also available. It can do everything except change other people's permissions and customize. Everything else is turned on. Then you can make your own profiles. This looks like a lot of information. It's pretty much every single tool in the CRM you can switch off. So rather than talking about every single one of these sections, just use the CRM and say, oh, hey, I don't want the salesperson to be able to do this. I don't want the manager to see this, etc. Then come back and just simply find the module, find the tool, and just switch it off. You just have to put a check mark on it. You can apply the same profile to multiple people. And then the role. We all have a hierarchy in our company, right? We have an owner, founder, CEO, president somewhere at the top. Then there's VPs and directors and managers and salespeople and, I don't know, new hires and whatnot all the way to the bottom, right? Our goal in life is to get to the very top of this hierarchy, right? So think of that hierarchy, and that's all you need to put here. I like to think of this as a tree. That's my metaphor that I like to use. The president sits at the very, very top of the tree in their nest, can see everything below. I am a entry-level sales rep. I'm on the bottom branch there. And I can't see up. That's all it is. If you are on the same level, can you see people on the same branch as you? Right? So sales rep and support rep, they're on different branches but on the same level. Can they see each other's information? You can decide that by allowing peer sharing. You can go even further with this now. If you allow peer sharing, can they see all of the modules? If so, what fields in those modules? If so, can they view only or read, write, delete in those modules? And that's where it becomes more advanced. So if you have more layers to add, then you start looking at groups and data sharing settings and field permissions, which we'll talk about in advanced customization. Lastly, what if all of your sharing is not by ownership? It's not to do with whose lead it is and whose account, whose contact. That's territories. Territory doesn't mean geographic location. All it means is it's not the owner. If it's business unit, it's product type. It's the branch of the office. It can be whatever you want it to be. That is a territory. So if your needs are outside of ownership for sharing, territory management is your answer. All right.